All right, everybody. My name is Ken, and this is Brian. Welcome back to episode 28 of Clicks and Bricks. Before we get started, if you'd like to join my text community, 314-370-2871. Just text any question or just simply say hi and introduce yourself to that text line, and I'll add you to my community. I'll never try to sell you anything. I'll just send you tips and tricks, motivational stuff, and that's it.
Perfect. And my text line is 314-216-2040. The type of things to text would be maybe you have a question about a topic that we've already discussed, or maybe you have a new topic you want us to discuss, or you have a question about business in general. Let us know, right? And I'll reply back to it and help you out the best way I can. All righty. So today, episode 28, we are chugging along here, aren't we?
Chugging along. Going by quick.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
It feels like yesterday we just started.
Yeah, it does. It was 28 weeks ago, though. That's a long time. That's
29. So we took 1 week off.
Did we take a week off?
Yeah, it was New Year's.
New Year's week. Yeah, we took that first week of January off. So
we spoke that into existence. So today's topic is part 2. Zoomers and boomers, age in the business doesn't matter. Your age, not the life of your business. Okay. But before we get started and dive into that, we have to talk about
your employee's age.
Yes,
like staff paying, all that
exactly.
Stuff, right? Yeah.
The actual years you've been alive, not your business age. So before we dive into our topic here today, we have to dive into our Between the Cubicles, which is brought to you by InLink, right?
Yeah.
InLink. Okay. My InLink is inlink.com/Brian.
Right. Mine is inlink.com/Ken. From there, you can see all of my social media profiles. You can see my Cash App if you want to just send me a couple bucks. I'm always taking it.
Donate. You can donate.
If you want to check my TikTok out, my Instagram, InLink or LinkedIn, YouTube, anything on there, you've got it. So
yeah, it's a pretty cool place. I highly recommend it if you are a professional to get a InLink account. It's basically a digital business card. Okay, all your report made super easy in one spot, and it doesn't cost you anything. So like, why not? Right.
Totally free for your basic account, and it has all your profiles, right?
Right.
If you upgrade, you get verified, and you can get one of these little things are coming.
Yeah, one of those guys there.
You can do NFC check-in, so people just bump it and then pull up your InLink account. It's really slick,
super slick, and I've already used it a couple times already.
I've been using it more and more. They work some bugs out, right? There were some bugs with some Apple phones, but we figured that out and moving along. So
now it works for all the phones.
It works for all the phones now. So
shout out to InLink.
Yes.
So today's topic for our Between the Cubicles is the 60-minute episode with the former governor. It says GOV governor, I'm assuming. Government employee.
Okay.
Government employees talking about UFOs and aliens.
Oh wow.
So now this topic is starting to come back up.
Right.
Did you watch the 60-minute episode?
I did not see the episode.
Okay, I don't see the episode either, but I've been reading like articles about it.
Okay.
And apparently there's been a few people there that are talking about how they've seen sights of UFOs like on a daily basis for a couple of years at a time.
As government officials.
As government officials.
Okay.
Right? People in the Navy, all across the United States. So not like in one spot, like a bunch of different spots.
Right. And I don't know a lot about this topic. I am a little, I watched the guy with the big hair on the ancient aliens. I really like all that stuff, but I don't really dive too deep into it.
Well, it's easy to do.
It is really easy to do, and my wife absolutely loves all of that stuff. So if we can get lost too quickly, so we kind of stay out of it. I mean, I'm in the camp of, are there aliens in the? I think we're aliens. And at the end of the day, I think human beings are not native to this planet in some way, right? I mean, this could go way back when, but something happened on this planet that created the process for human life to be here. So, I don't think we're native, or we'd have been here for 4 billion years, or a lot longer than what we could trace it back to, right? Something happened that. Meteor, something happened. I'm not a big religious guy.
Life available.
Yeah. So, but we're finding fossils on other planets. We're finding some life forms on other planets. So, are there aliens? I believe
so.
The odds are yes.
Absolutely.
Are there spaceships flying around inside our atmosphere that are alien? I doubt it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I guess I'm in agreement with that. You know, because being that there's, you know, several thousands of galaxies, we're just one, and we can't even get that far in ours.
Right.
If by any
There's
chance,
billions of galaxies.
yeah, there's
Billions
crap ton.
of galaxies. Yes.
Whatever crap ton is to you, that times 10.
Yes.
So to think that there are UFOs coming around, it absolutely could happen. But I would think that they would have to be so much more sophisticated that we wouldn't know if they were there.
Oh, like the 2D world?
Yeah.
Kind of deal? Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, you've got all the different galaxies and you got all the different dimensions and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Could there be aliens here that we can't see them because they're in some kind of other dimension?
They very well could be.
Absolutely, right?
Absolutely. I don't think that's too far-fetched at all.
I think if there was aliens here, that they would have communicated with us at this point.
If they wanted to. I mean, we could be an experiment for them for all we know, man. They could be like, let's see how, you know, they do things on Earth here. Maybe we can bring that to our other galaxy, Earth 2 or something.
Maybe they're observers. You know? I mean, that whole topic is not just an entire podcast episode. It's an entirely different podcast. So,
I mean, Elon Musk thinks so too, man. Like,
I think Elon Musk might be an alien.
he said he think he might be an alien.
Might be one, right? So who knows? If there's aliens on the planet, Elon Musk is a contender. He'll be one of them for sure, right?
He's in the running.
Yes, he's just trying to get home. That's it.
That's why he's so innovative, right?
Yes. Could be. Who knows?
So that makes a lot. I understand him a lot more now. He must be really lovely.
Probably is a pretty lonely guy, right? He doesn't have a lot of peers, so that's a tough place to be.
And with where his mind is and how he does things, like you can talk to you can't talk small town, small things with you can't talk big things with small people. They can't fathom it. You're just crazy to them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in small people. I think everybody has the capacity. Yeah,
they have the capacity to do it, but they may not want to. So if they close off that door, the conversation, and they can open the door if they want to.
Well, and I think a lot of people have this this thought process that, oh, if that's true, then my religious beliefs can't be true. And I believe I have faith in my religious beliefs, so I'm going to shut that off. Right. And you know, sometimes I think your religious beliefs can coexist with alien beings or with dinosaurs or with other things as well. But
it goes back to what we talked about with school, right? They were so definitive about how they taught stuff in school, and the fact of the matter, they should have been like, well, what we know right now.
Yeah.
What we know right now.
I was lied to my entire schooling, right? Just flat ass lies. Pluto was a planet. Adam was the smallest thing on the world. The Earth was 2,000 years old. Like, these are all just flat ass lies that I was taught. And I was taught those as I was taught them in such a way that if I didn't answer it properly on the test, then I got beat that weekend. Right? If I didn't say on this test that Pluto is a planet, and I got a failing grade, then I went home, I got my ass kicked because I got an F on a paper.
Right.
So that, I mean, they taught that stuff like,
that's what it was.
They literally beat it into
it. Was law. It was law.
Yes.
It was law.
So, I think the entire, I mean, I know we're talking about aliens, but the entire schooling system is screwed, and the education system is screwed. Hopefully we find a better solution as we move forward in our...
It's just like a lot of things.
As humanity continues to succeed.
Exactly.
We find new ways and better ways.
As we grow and develop, the rest of our life needs to grow and develop. We can't do things we've been doing hundreds and thousands of years ago.
No,
all the new technologies, all the new advancements that we have.
As bad as COVID's been,
it's silly if you think about it, really.
As bad as COVID's been, I think our education system needed a big shakeup, and I fear that people are going to run back to what they were comfortable with, to this traditional schooling system. Because at the end of the day, our schools are babysitters.
For a lot of kids, yes. A lot of parents are like, hey, they're your responsibility until they get on that bus.
So I think we're way off topic now.
Yes.
But let's jump right into Zoomers and Boomers. This is the second episode. We only got 2 questions or 3 questions last week.
Right.
And it got kind of people just kept asking more questions, so we decided to extend this episode to 2-week episode, which is we're allowed to do because we can do whatever we want. Clicks and bricks.
Right. It's our
actually, we do whatever Nick tells us to do.
So let's just dive right in before we make Nick any more upset. So Nathan asked, are there any benefits or disadvantages to appointing a young person as a project manager? The second part of that question is, can you go through them and do both benefits outweigh the risk or vice versa?
Yeah, and then every single topic in this category, I'm going to say it depends on the person, right? The risks of having a young person as a project manager is it has to be the right person, right? And as a project manager, you have to know how to motivate people and move people forward. And if you get the wrong person on the team, if you're going to put a young person as a project manager, I'm getting stuck in a whole bunch of stuff. Generally, project managers don't have the ability to hire and fire their teammates. Right? They're the project manager. They're not the boss. They're just managing that project. So they can't kick people off the team and bring new people in the team. So I would say that if you're going to hire somebody young that doesn't have the ability to demand, I'm going to say respect for lack of better words, when he walks into the room, then you have to give him the ability, or that person the ability, to build his own team.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I mean, a lot of times respect's earned. So you can say respect, respect, respect. I mean, people do it in your face, but they won't run out your back, and they're not really getting the best out of your team really at that point. You can't motivate them if they don't respect you.
Right, and unfortunately, and this isn't all people in their 40s and 50s, but a lot of people in their 50s are going to look at a 20-year-old kid.
You can't teach me anything.
And say, who the hell are you? What are you going to do? Like, it's, and they're, we had a situation here where we had an older employee and a younger employee, and they were working together, and the younger employee was, he just constantly disrespects me. Like, he's literally talking down to me like I'm a child, right? And I find it offensive.
Yeah.
And the only reason I would discredit that in a lot of cases, but, this particular younger employee works with like 8 other people, and he doesn't have that problem with anybody, and he's the youngest in the group, right? So
there's something to be said there.
There is something to be said. Personally, age, race, sex, all those things, I'm oblivious to. People are people. Some people are bust their ass and work hard. Some people are lazy. And on top of that, some lazy people have really great days that bust their ass. Some people bust their ass every day, have really lazy days.
Yeah.
So it's just
you didn't make every shot, man.
No, and you need a lot of people to move anything forward. So I think it takes all those perspectives, and having respect for each other moving forward is how you do that. But building that team is important, and you're going to have all different kinds of personalities. I would say a person on your team that disrespects somebody because they're younger, you should fire them immediately, because they're going to disrespect people for all kinds of weird reasons.
Right? Well, and it just sets a really bad precedent. That's a bad business culture there. If like disrespect is something that's like, because disrespect breeds disrespect.
Well, yeah, but that can lie under the blankets too for a long time. Really, you don't even notice it, right?
It just feels gross.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell's going on here?
Exactly.
So
you wouldn't know if you were like the boss. You're just like, why is everybody acting like this? I don't understand.
Yeah. If you weren't really close to that team. So
yeah. And that's the whole point of having the project manager, because you're not supposed to be all deep in it. You're supposed to let them go, run, do the job.
I would say if the project manager's direct report respects him enough to say, when he comes and says, hey, I this person needs to leave my team and get out of it, then great. But sometimes, that's the boss's cousin or something else, right? And that becomes a whole different...
The political part is a whole other world.
Yeah.
That's the whole kind of topic right there. Right?
Yeah, nepotism's a whole other topic, right?
Yeah.
It's tough putting a young project manager over a big group if that project manager doesn't have extremely intimate knowledge of the project that they're working on. And I find a lot of times that project managers don't.
I think that's accurate.
Right. They're just, keeping track. They're taskmasters, basically.
Right.
And I think in a lot of companies, because they don't hire secretaries anymore, they have a project manager that acts like a secretary. Yeah. And that's a discredit to project managers and the team, I think.
Agreed.
Right.
The other thing I would say, too, if there's going to be a younger person, something I think that's wildly important for that project manager to have is the voice of the company.
Yes.
Right? So they have to know the rules, the values, the beliefs that this company stands on. They have to adhere to that, show them, display them under all circumstances.
Yes.
Even when that person's being disrespectful.
Yes.
Right? They still have to do the right thing. And that's going to help them earn the respect from the rest of their team and get the rest of the team on board with that message. the last thing you want is, regardless if that person's young or old, is you want a project manager completely, going off the rails and they're not your company.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Young, old.
That doesn't matter. Disrespect at any age should be, but disrespect should be looked at, because some things can be construed as disrespectful that were just obviously misunderstandings.
And that happens a lot when it comes to age.
Yes.
Right? Because like for my son, texting is like normal communication and whatnot.
Right.
Most people I talk to, they're like, dude, text me if you have something really important that you can't talk from.
Okay.
Like most people I know like that, they're like, hey, call me, yes, no, done.
And I'm 46, right? So, and I live on text messages. I live on Snapchat. I live on WhatsApp. I live on TikTok, Instagram. I have people that I specifically only talk to them through Instagram and in real life. I never talk to them on the phone. Right?
Crazy.
So
and some people can see that as disrespectful.
I think about it now, and I have a nonverbal son, so I look at a world of, I communicate to people however they need me to communicate to them.
That's a really great way to look at it.
Right? And some people, I have people in my life that we're just never going to learn how to communicate with each other. So you just say, okay, we're going to exist different apart from each other. Right? Because we don't know how to communicate with each other, and we can't figure each other out. So that's okay. Right? There's lots of people in the world that like me, and lots of people in the world that probably don't.
One of my favorite sayings for that is that I may not be your cup of tea, but I'm somebody shot a fireball. So okay, that's cool.
Yep.
Now go away.
Yeah.
So some things to think about when you're hiring this, young or whatever the age of the project manager should be. They have to echo your voice. They have to have respect of their team, and they have to have I would say a good enough relationship with their upper management that if they're having an issue on their team, that they can either redesign their team or get some support to make sure that team knows that, listen, if you're not going to be here, I'm gonna let him kick you off the spot.
Right.
You can't play.
And I think this is in all parts of business. Their demeanor has to be above reproach at all points.
Yes.
Right. They can never ever let it slip. And I play as a manager, I play a very slippery slope line, and I choose to do this, right? Because this is how I live my life where I work, 15 hours a day in one of two of my businesses. And so other than my wife and kids, the only people I talk to are employees, right? So, I make it, I've never ever even say the words people work for me. I always say I work with them. So,
that's huge.
It is huge. And it's, for me, it works, but it's a slippery slope, right? And I make sometimes bad business decisions because I'm so close with the people that I work with. And I'm okay with that. I accept that. I understand it, and I move forward. But a young person in a project management role may not know how to handle that as well as I do. I've got a good 20 years of experience in this game,
right?
On understanding some of the nuances and how to play them and how to differentiate and when to be stern and how to lighten that load. I'm not perfect at it. I'm pretty good at it. But if you're young and you're a project manager, you have to do stuff like have parties with your team, help motivate them, and get camaraderie going. But you also have to be really careful, because I know when I was in my early 20s, man, if I took a group to the bar and I had the company credit card, shit could get sideways pretty easy. And the last thing you want is a person on your team that maybe has some other agendas, right? Because everybody wants to move up,
right?
Seeing you in some compromising positions in the world and holding that over your head. So if you're a younger project manager, really be careful when you're out with your team. I've seen we had a software company with about 700 people at one point, right? And I saw this a lot of times where it's this constant competition and pettiness.
It definitely wasn't friendly competition.
It wasn't always friendly competition, for sure, right?
Kind of type.
Yeah, it was like, okay, I'm trying to get ahead, and anything I can do to get ahead. So anytime your company gets larger, you have to deal with those things too, right? So,
and it goes back to the point I was making about having that project manager echo the voice of the company.
Yes.
Right. So the bigger you get, that's even more important, because you have to rely that those people are going to take care of that department, that section.
Right.
And they're going to lead with.
And I would say that if you're a company and you're going to promote a young person as a project manager, that you should also give that project manager a bulldog. Let him be the nice guy, the good cop all the time, and saying, hey, we need to push these projects forward, but give him a bulldog that can bite the heads off.
A sergeant at arms.
Yes.
Robert's Rule of Order. It comes in handy so much, man.
Yeah. Yes, it does. So.
All right. So, which is Nathan. Hopefully that answered your question. If you have any more questions about that, just shoot us a text line or hit us up on any one of the ways you want to reach us. Right? In link. Right? inlink.com/Brian. All right. So moving forward here, Toby asks, when you're looking at someone's resume to hire, you look at their age. Do you look at their age at all, or only experience, or any other attributes?
I do not look at resumes at all until, and maybe only if I'm the one interviewing. So what I will do is, with our knock manager records the interviews now they're on Zoom. So if he's got like 3 or 4 candidates and he comes to me and says, hey, I'm not sure who to hire, then we'll go back and look at the recordings.
Because you don't do it yourself anymore. You have someone else.
I don't even do hiring anymore.
Yeah,
like
for either one of your business.
No, I don't. I will hire salespeople here at Host here, and I'll hire the sales team, but I'm not hiring any. I don't hire any technical people at all anymore. If I were to hire somebody like a network engineer or something like that, I'd be involved with that. But we've got a stable set of network engineers, systems engineers, all that stuff. It's their entry level position that kind of rotates more, that we interview for more frequently. So. Those I'm not involved in that process at all, unless Chris comes and says, hey, I'm having trouble, how do I get over these hurdles? And then I get involved, but that's the only time I get involved intimately in that position. So, but when I did interview more frequently, I would not seriously look at the resume until I was face to face with them. And I've got some pretty big misconceptions about college-educated people, right? And I think my misconceptions are on both sides of the fence, right? Sometimes I think, the college education doesn't mean a whole lot. It just means that you know how to learn or you know how to pass your tests and go through that process in school. And the other side, I think, man, if you're college-educated, you should know some of these fundamental things. And I've been wrong drastically on both sides of the fence, right? I believe that if you've got a 4-year degree, that you should be pretty computer savvy at minimum, right? At least know, be a power user of a computer, and I'm wildly wrong there. So, yeah, and I've also had people. I've hired 2 guys from the same college once at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Right, and it was ITT.
Okay.
Technical college,
ITT
right?
Institute.
ITT Tech, and one of the guys ended up being one of the best systems engineers I've ever worked with in my career, and the other guy literally had the same degree from the same school, graduated the same day together, took all the same coursework. Wasn't a dummy, but he had just no motivation to grow or excel. And what I found out later from the guy that really excelled, he's like, yeah, I didn't learn any of this in school. This is all self-taught knowledge, right?
So he really liked what he was doing.
He really loved IT. He loved computers, and he went that way. So, I tend to hire people that are passionate about something over people that have some kind of education behind it.
I love that, because that's something that you can't really see on a resume.
No, and the resume will fool you.
It absolutely will fool you, because if they know how to write the paper, they can make a bomb resume, right? And be trash when you get there to talk to them.
Right.
But I know that when I was hiring people in some of the other positions I've had, I didn't really use the resume as like a make or break.
Yeah.
You could have a terrible resume and I'd still see you in here.
Yeah. What
I did do though is that when I made that first phone call and I had like a phone interview, I guess you call, based on how that conversation went, like how they spoke, how they answered the questions, how their personalities. I try to get something where I can see a little bit of their past, like were they interested in, are they excited kind of person? Because most of the ones I was hiring for, it was all sales. So I needed people that were outgoing and energetic and willing to have a conversation and talk about something that they may not know, but they can still be a part of the conversation.
Right.
Just so they can have a small talk.
Yeah.
And that stuff you can't see that on resume.
No, I will say that one approach in hiring today, post-COVID versus pre-COVID, wildly different.
I haven't hired them, so I have no idea.
Right.
how
So
to do
I
that.
know that pre-COVID, we'd put a knock position on Indeed, and in a couple days we'd have 150 to 300 applicants. And post-COVID, 15 applicants.
Which is crazy.
Right. So wildly different experience. So
Right.
when we had the 300 resumes, one thing that I did do and that we implemented was first thing that we do is go through all the resumes.
Mhm.
And if you were more than 15 miles from the office, because we are a work in the office company, if you're more than 15 miles from the office, we said we did not hire them, but we set them in a different stack. Right.
Got it.
I believe in a quality of life, and I believe in happiness, and I believe in those things. And I also believe I have employees that commute. Don't get me wrong. I believe that if you have to drive, if you're going to confine yourself to a vehicle for 2 to 3 hours a day to do your job, that your quality of life is not as good as somebody that only is in their car for 10 or 15 minutes a day. I'm a firm believer in that, and I would never commute to work for the rest of my life. If commuting to work is a requirement, then I'm moving. I'm not going to put myself in a cage for an hour to 2 hours a day.
I mean, there's a lot of people that feel that way. But
So-
some people are the opposite.
Then they can go for a drive, right? But I mean, you think about a situation where like, hey, can you come into work and work a couple hours? Man, it's an hour drive and an hour drive home. Is it worth 2 hours to come in? No,
Right.
like it's a handicapped employee, especially for a full-time position.
Well, for the position that you guys are most likely hiring for, yes, it would absolutely be a handicap. I mean,
Yeah.
they're working longer hours, they're working overnights.
I believe that a lot of my success at Posterian has been when I was younger. I lived really close.
You were available.
I was available. I was there. So if they called me, I was like, yeah, I can run by and kick the generator. I can run over and reboot that server. Yeah, I can get up at 3 a.m. and run up to the office really quick to let somebody in and help work on a server.
Yeah.
Right. So being available is probably the most beneficial thing that I've ever been able to do. Is just, simply be there. Right.
But so I guess the real thing kind of makes sense for you to make that decision is what are you hiring for?
Yeah.
Because if you're hiring for a position like the knock, where you need to be available at a moment's notice, or you could be on call or something, being more than 15 miles out is totally a handicap.
It's a handicap, right? So why would you interview the people that are going to start with the handicap if you don't have to, right? If you got 300 resumes, might as well start with. So some of those, I guess it'd be key performance indicators, KPI. On, you can bust those out. Okay, I would like to have somebody closer to the office, and then from there, okay, either I want a college educated person or I don't. I want to self-taught. Then you can differentiate those resumes. Age has never been a concern for me on hiring. Distance, job hopping is somewhat a concern, right? If they're young and they've got 10 or 15 jobs on their,
That's for a lot of businesses.
yeah, that's a little bit of a concern. But I won't not interview them because of that.
I mean,
I want to know the reason behind.
Exactly. There's always a story behind it. And they're job hopping like that. They could have been a bad fit. It could have been like maybe they thought there was something and they didn't realize it was.
I mean, there was a time in my life that I was looking for something different, right? I worked at Emos for a long time when I was a kid, and I probably had 10 or 15 different jobs, right? Between bam and bam, like,
Yeah.
I think I worked in Motel 6 for like 3 days, cleaning rooms. I'm like, that's not for me. Learning, for me, it was more about learning what's not for me than what is for me. But
that's a good asset too, though. I mean, if you take it like that, you can still learn something from it. As long as you're learning from it, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people think that you only learn one way. And I think that's the problem with a lot of college educated kids that you found. They only know how to learn if you give them something and you tell them exactly what they can't figure anything out. They're probably
right, which is bad for company.
Yeah.
I think it's bad for it might be great for like stock option traders and stuff like that, but in technology where it changes so quickly, right? And the Linux world just made a giant change on me this year or last year, and I'm really struggling with it, right? I mean, it's hard for me to take this jump, and for the geeks out there, I'm an init guy, and they changed. There's no init systems anymore. Everything's system D now. And you probably don't understand what that means.
That's over my head.
People might know what that means, but it aggravates the hell out of me that every single operating system now is system D, and I grew up with init D. And before I was able to make the decision on, do I want to use System D or Init D, and now I don't have a decision anymore. But I have to now, at 46 years old,
Learn new
I
stuff.
don't have to because I have employees that do it for me. I can just tell them to do it.
That's
But
not
I
your
want
style.
to know to do it.
Yeah.
I need to know. For me, as somebody that's going to be hiring people long term, I need to at least understand the basics so I can interview people and have a conversation to see, are they blowing smoke up my ass or not?
Exactly.
Right?
You know, which goes again back to that culture, right? You gotta have it.
Easier for salespeople to blow smoke up your ass than it is for tech people.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
and salespeople are better at it. Just that's
That's part of their job.
part of their job. Right?
Part of their job.
Yeah, to sugarcoat everything.
Right. Which is why a lot of people hate salesmen because they don't think
Yeah.
they're telling them the honest truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I got most of my sales jobs. I'm like, listen, you know, I just tell people the truth. Like,
Yep.
I don't think this is for you.
Yeah.
What you said you want, I don't think this is it.
Right.
Don't do it, man. It's crazy. A lot of times that's what people buy. Just tell them, like,
Yeah.
because I can trust this guy, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. So, Toby, I hope that answered your question. We're going to keep it moving along here. We're going.
Actually, we're at the halfway point.
Perfect timing.
Yes. So today in Tech History is sponsored by Hosterian. WordPress support. Fix your website now. Any WordPress issue, we'll fix it for $200. It's $199, and we'll fix it within 1 business day, guaranteed, or your money back. And we'll give you a premium inlink.com account.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes. So this is very similar to last week.
Okay.
But this is May 22nd, 1973. Ethernet is proposed. So Ethernet was born on paper but didn't see operation until November 11th, 1973, when it was implemented. So we're going to go ahead and skip right past that because I think we talked way too much last week about Ethernet.
Yeah, we did.
And then we're going to make Nick super happy. And May 18th, 1999, Star Wars Episode 1 was released in theaters. You're welcome,
He's back
Nick.
there smiling back there. He's like, yes.
For those of you who don't know, Nick is a super Star Wars nerd. I'm a Star Wars fan as well, just
I'm a
not
fan,
nearly.
but I'm not a fanatic.
Yes.
At all.
Nick is the fanatic,
Yes.
I think, right?
Yes.
He likes Mandalorian. I don't even understand that. A guy walking through the desert for about 7 weeks. Bleep that out.
Yes. We got one. Only 30 minutes in.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, I love Star Wars. I'm not a huge fan of what Disney's doing with it. I
It's
think
interesting, man.
I love the concept of what they're doing with it. I just wish that they were better storytellers and more excitement in their storytelling.
Storytelling is starting to go away, I feel like.
The storytelling in Mandalorian, that stuff to me is just really, really slow. And even the Marvel stuff like this, I can't get past WandaVision. I can't get past the second episode.
Dude, I fell asleep in the first one.
And I'm being told, like, oh, you got to get through the second episode. I'm like, but I can't. It's so boring.
Yeah.
It's
First
so boring.
First one's pretty bad, man.
Yeah, like, why do I have to wait
Excitement.
that long to
Yeah.
get excitement?
Yeah, that's.
Like-
I've never really liked TV shows or episodes that I had to like invest so much time before I figure out if I like it or not.
Yeah,
Like, come on, give it to me, man. Like,
give me more excitement up front.
Yeah,
You know, give me a reason to stick around.
Right.
Don't say, hey, it gets good later.
Yeah, that makes it really tough.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this podcast, regardless of where you're listening to, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give us some ratings, let us know how you feel and think about our podcast, and if this was helpful for you, right?
Yes.
We would love to hear your feedback.
Smash that like button. Give us some stars. If you want to reach my text line community, 314-370-2871. Subscribe to Clicks and Bricks.
There you go. There you go. My text line, 314-216-2040. So we're going to keep it moving along. And Sam asks, does age correlate to career success? Why or why not?
I think, and I'm going to say yes, it does.
Okay.
Because you don't have any, when you're first getting in your first job, you don't have opportunity to succeed, right?
Right.
You can come in and bust your ass and all those things, but, you know, I see a lot of times, you know, people, they're there, they come in and they bust their ass for a month and like, I want a raise. I'm like, well, you're not earning any of a month, right? Like, a month isn't enough time to really show that you're in the game for the long term and all those things, right? Some people can pull it off. not many. But the longer, and I don't think it's age, I think it's time and position.
That's part of it.
Right?
Part of it.
So if, so let's make believe for a second that 30 years old is young. Right?
Okay.
Because it is to me now, right? It wasn't for a long time, but now it is.
To me.
But to say I'm 30 years old is old, and to me, 30 is young. So a 30-year-old that's been at the company for 10 years is going to have more success than a 30-year-old that's been there for a year.
And why you say that?
Because he's had more opportunity to be successful.
So he's had more failures, he's had more lessons, and hopefully he learned from them.
Right. So a 30-year-old that was doing some other career and said, oh, I'm going to change careers at 28 or 29, and then goes to work for a new company and is only there for a year, he doesn't have the life experience at that company for that long, right? So I would say longevity with the job has more to do with success than age does, but age generally is in lockstep with how long you've been working.
Usually.
In that specific career. So
that's interesting.
That's my take on it. I think success is, to me, a person that achieves success is whatever they execute on an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, because to me, part of what success is just getting back up after you fail. Because a lot of people fail.
Well, that's part of it, right?
Right. Well, and I bring that up because I struggle with saying that yes, that the age is a correlation, because there's people like Boy Hizza that he can't even buy alcohol and he's wildly successful.
Right. It's a correlation. It's not the only correlation.
Okay.
Right. And I think that's the difference, right? And it's a correlation.
Okay.
And
I can buy that.
Can some kids hustle their ass off and make it huge? Absolutely. I think a young person has a higher likelihood, like Boy Hizza, to be wildly successful on his own than he does in corporate America.
Yes.
Right.
Some people
in corporate America, I think Boy Hizza would absolutely fail because management styles and structure styles and things like that are going to crush him. And he's going to hate it. And he's going to leave.
Yeah.
Right. He won't be there long.
I mean, that's literally what my brother did. He right out of college, he went over to Boeing and was like, "Oh man, I can't do this."
Right.
And he left. And I remember the day he left, he was like, "Man, Brian, I'm either gonna be really rich or really poor. We'll see how it goes."
I'll be happy.
He's like, "I'll be happy though." So, and he went after it. And he hasn't turned back since. You know. Yeah. So you're absolutely right about that. Absolutely right.
And I think it's a correlation, not the only correlation.
Yes.
But it does. They tend to be in lockstep with each other, and I think it's more about how long you've been in a position than about your age.
Yeah, because and just like you said, I mean, they go together, because if you're in a position longer, you're going to have more opportunities to learn and fail. And
I agree that a measure of success is not giving up, but getting knocked down and just standing back up and not swinging anymore is still failure, right?
Absolutely.
Then you're just going through the motions.
And I think a lot of people do that.
A lot of people go through the motions. They get really comfortable. Being comfortable is the worst place on the planet to be.
Oh my gosh, you're dead. You're done.
Like, a lot of people like living there. I hate it.
I can't say it. It makes my stomach turn.
And it drives my wife crazy. Right. She's like, is it never enough? I'm like, no, it's not. Like, why would I ever, you want me to give up? Like, you married me because I'm the asshole that keeps pushing for more. Yeah. Right? You like that about me. If that goes away, why would you even be with me?
Well, we both married small town country girls. So they're content, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm just like, I'm never content. Like, I don't know what would ever make me content. Like,
well, I've got a few ideas. But it's only short-lived.
Yeah,
right?
It'd be that for like 2 years. I'm like, all right, what's next?
Like, I'm wildly content on the jet ski in the river and the dance on the Colorado River, right? I'm wildly content when I'm out in the desert for a couple of days. But that's a couple days. I get, a couple goes in, I'm like, okay, I got to get back and do something different.
Yeah, got to do something.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that answers your question, Sam. If it does not, feel free to shoot us up on the text lines or reach out to us on any one of the social medias. Check us out, okay? So, Calvin asks, do you think I should be honest when telling people my age at work?
Well,
yes. There's a bunch of stuff afterwards.
So, I'll tell you a story. When I was younger,
okay,
I used this line all the time because this is actually kind of funny, I forgot about this. When I was in my early 20s, I looked older than I was by quite a bit.
You probably always have, though.
Yes, absolutely. I've always, until now, I look younger than I actually am. But That's a different story. So when somebody asked me what my age was, until I really just lost track of how old I was for a long time. My standard line was, I'll be 30 in May. Right? And I just assumed that, 30 is this number that people respect. Nobody respects anybody in their 20s.
No.
Other than other 20-year-olds, right? But
that's what it feels like.
When you're under 30, it definitely feels that way. So I just started saying, probably about 24 years old, I started saying, I'll be 30 in May. And I'm like, it's not a lie. I will be 30 in May, and it won't be this May. So that was the line that I used a lot, and I didn't. At the time, I convinced myself I wasn't lying. I was definitely being misleading.
I like how you can't admit that I convinced myself that I was telling the truth.
I didn't lie. I did turn 30 in May. It just wasn't that specific May. So you should be honest about your age. Yeah. And if people are asking you how old you are, it's probably, one, I don't think your boss is even allowed to ask. Correct. I don't think he's allowed to ask.
Other employees, right? Like, other employees are working. It's like, how old are you, man?
Right. I mean, you want to celebrate birthdays and all that stuff. Like, yeah. You're with your coworkers for 8 hours a day, generally. That's a long time. Right? That's a lot of time to be with somebody. That's more time than I'm awake with my wife. Right? It's more time than I'm awake with my kids. Yeah. So I'm with the people that I work with more than anybody else on the planet. Why would I lie to them about something that's significant about? And for me, my birthday is one of the only holidays that I celebrate. Right? Me too. New Year's Eve, 4th of July, my birthday. Those are my holidays for the most part. So birthday to me is a big deal, and I want to celebrate it, and I don't want a cloud hanging over me. Yeah. When I'm celebrating it. Right?
I'm the exact same way. You don't want to start a relationship at work with a lie.
No.
Because we talk about earning respect, having the company values. You're going to quickly have every one of your team dismiss you.
Right. But if you can find some verbiage that's not a lie that makes you put you in a better light, yeah.
I'll be 30 on your birthday.
Yeah.
Where do you go with that?
Yeah.
See, I've had like the opposite of this because I've always looked wildly younger than what I look like.
Yeah.
So when I've had a lot of management positions, man, I got treated so bad, dude. Insane. I remember even one time that, people just did not want to listen to me. I was actually over 21, and they could not believe that I was the manager at the shoe store in the mall, and they asked to speak to the manager. And I had a little bit of a bad temper at that time frame. I'm like, okay, I'll go grab him. And I walk in the back, and I come back, hey, my name's Brian, I'm your manager, what can I do for you?
Right.
And to see the look on their face, like, holy crap, I was talking to the manager the whole time. Because they just assumed I was like one of the employees in my store. That's kind of stuff I dealt with all the time.
On the flip side on that, I used to work with a guy who was in his early 30s, and he was in management, and he was kind of executive management, and the company was growing really fast, and we were on our way to be publicly traded. We didn't hit IPO, but we were on our way there, and he used to he didn't lie about his age, but he dyed his hair gray. And so that when he was in these meetings, people didn't even question him.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, ever since I dyed my hair gray, and nobody even questions me whenever I talk. I mean, he was a he kind of had a similar stature as me, and he was pronounced well and firm when he spoke, but he looked young, and people discredit him. He's like, yeah, I dyed my hair gray, man, and nobody even questions me anymore. I just say something and they just believe me.
So when I started growing facial hair, I noticed a huge difference.
Really?
And I got a beard a year ago.
Okay. I had a beard at 14.
I didn't know how to shave until like a year ago, dude.
Okay.
I'm probably 37 in a month. Right. So like having facial hair was a complete game changer. So much that I even talked to some of my friends that have beards now and didn't, like up until relatively recently. And I'm like, do people treat you differently when you got a beard? They're like, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I probably talked to about 15, 20 different people that said that as soon as they start growing facial hair, people talk to them differently. That's weird. So what's going on in our society? We can't appreciate someone's age, and it's being that if they know information, they know the information. It's connected to the age all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a younger person hasn't had as much opportunity to learn as an older person.
Absolutely true.
But it's just that simple.
And I don't disagree with that. And I can also say that they know something.
I'll tell you what, my 10-year-old son probably knows more about the universe than I ever will.
And kids are simple, man.
But he can't say a single word. So,
And you still learn something from him.
and I still learn from him. So, and he understands the world differently than I do.
And kids absolutely do.
Right.
And your son even more so than the average child.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, my daughter is. I mean, she's 14, and she's been an adult since she was 10, for the most part. Right. I mean, she rocks in every way. And she's got critical thinking. She's got,
And that's hard.
She's got a really good tool set in her bucket. So
that's really cool, man.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I know it's definitely something that both of my boys still struggle with, right? And I think it's so much just like the lifestyle and going from 2 different homes and all the homeschooling, and it's a different world for these kids,
right?
So I can see how I understand how people came up with, okay, you're younger, you don't know anything yet. I get it,
right?
And at the same time, I also know that sometimes, like, that new fresh eyes on it, even though that it's, they may not know everything, sometimes the fresh eyes can give you a completely different vantage point.
It depends on the topic, right?
Well, a lot of IT stuff and technical stuff, probably not. Because they have to, like, know how you got to this point and know what's going on. And
right. But having the ability to run through a set of engineer designs and think about, what could go wrong. Exactly. That's a skill that life teaches you.
Yes.
Right. You don't learn. You don't just have that knowledge inherently. And also the verification stuff. You don't have that inherently, right? Oh, Johnny said he's going to do it. Okay, Johnny's going to do it. Right. That you just trust Johnny's going to do it. Right. You don't go back and say, okay, Johnny, did you do it? And then Johnny says, yes, I did it. Still could be wrong. It could be different than what you talked about. Right. It could be all kinds of different things. So.
So I guess you're right.
That skepticism you don't have when you're younger. So stuff like, in IT and in finance, you really don't have that mindset of, double checking and an awareness of what could happen in these situations, right?
Just haven't experienced it. So to you, it doesn't exist.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess it definitely matters a lot more than on what kind of position they're going into.
Yeah, and I used to get really upset. I would send a document out. I would spend a lot of time on a document, right? Mm-hmm. And I swear my boss would edit it just to edit it, right? and I would send it out for approval to send out, and I swear he would change 3 or 4 words in the whole thing, and then send it back. I'm like, you changed those just to change them, just because you couldn't take it the way it was, right? Yeah. And now I'm a little older, and I'm like, maybe that word meant something a little different, or it could have been. And he didn't do a great job of explaining that to me. Mm. I really tried to explain that, the why I made changes to people, and instead of just saying, hey, I made this change, this is why I made this change. Do you agree with this, or do you think we should put it back the way it was? And really try to get that through, because I'm not trying to have employees that just do as I say. I'm trying to have employees that are engaging and can run departments on their own without my input. Right? Yeah. And then just really come back to me when they have an issue.
Yeah, well, that's almost like management.
Well, that's what I'm trying to be. I don't want to work anymore. I'm getting old.
Perfect timing. Yes. That's called the alley-oop right there.
So use my life skills to help people overcome hurdles on the things that I'm good at. I'm not good at. There's a plethora of shit that I'm not good at, right? So those are the things that I take my time and that I'm currently studying and trying to get better at. And the things that I am good at, I still want to keep my teeth sharp, but I'm not studying those things as much.
Got it. Well, that makes sense. So I have a follow-up question now for Calvin. What would be some advice you would give him? Right, so because right here he's saying that he's in a position in the office younger than most people, and just want to get treated differently, and then one guy dyed his hair. So what are some advice you have for someone that is young, in a position where people should listen to them, but they're worried about how people are going to treat them because they are young?
If you're in a company and you're being treated poorly because of your age, leave. Put your resume out and find another place to work, because it's a toxic environment. It's that simple, right? Outside of that, to make sure that you're trusted is, if you write a document, have it all spelled correctly. Really pay attention to the details on everything you do, right? Ask if you're given direction on something, this is something that never really happens to me, or it happens in a bunch of different ways. When you're sending out a draft, make sure you put draft at the top of the document. Hey guys, this is a draft, and like really right on the top of it, hey, I'm looking for feedback on this document. This is not a finished product.
Yeah.
Can I get feedback on this, right? Or this is I've edited this 5 times. It's been through 4 different proofreaders. This document should be ready for publishing. I'm sending it up for approval for publishing. So
give some kind of context to the document.
Give context to everything you're doing, right? Because context is everything.
Yes.
Right? I've had people hand me documents and I'm reading, I'm like, there's no way this can go out. What are you, crazy? They're like, well, I didn't intend it to go out. I intended for you to proofread it to see if I was going the right direction. I'm like, oh, well, you didn't tell me that. You handed me this document and said, hey, I want to send this email out.
Your mind like it's done.
Like, oh, well, then you want me to approve it, right?
Yeah.
So really understanding the context and the nuances of the work that you're submitting and being able to explain the context of where you're currently at in that project.
That's interesting because that goes right along what you said about having, if you're younger, you just don't have that awareness to know that, oh, I should probably do that. And
right.
someone that's been around for a while says, oh, you have to do that. Let people know exactly what you're doing, what your intent is, and then they can help you.
Right, because they don't know otherwise, right? Yeah. Like, if you hand somebody a document saying, hey, I want to send this email out, can you proofread it for me? My general assumption is that you've really taken the time and understood the company's voice already. You understand, okay, you understand the company's voice, so now you're writing this document to be in the company's voice to go out to our customers. If you don't tell me this is your first draft or rough draft, I don't know that.
It feels like it's done.
I think this is something you're saying, I want to send this to the customers. Can I? The answer is no right now because it's not in the company voice. It's got 27 misspellings.
Yeah.
Right? And if I'm pointing out your misspellings, it's bad.
But spelling is not your jam neither.
Well, actually, finding misspellings is, I'm much better at that than I am at spelling. So
you move so fast, man. I think you just feel like it's there. They know what I meant.
Well, when you normally see me work, I'm working on my first draft. So me, first draft is spelling's not even a problem. I don't care about spelling.
I don't care.
I need the thoughts on paper, and I need them documented in a structure. I can go back and fix spelling.
Yeah.
Right? That's something I can fix, but I can't. Sometimes if you don't get the thought down or the order of thoughts down, then they escape you in that particular moment. So, and I can think faster than I can type, unfortunately. Well, and I can type pretty damn fast.
You can type really fast.
So,
I definitely give you that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Calvin, hopefully that answered your question. Let us know if it does not, and we can go deeper into that. So, get a new job. No.
Yeah, if you're being treated poorly in any position, and when I say treated poorly, I mean systematically, repeatedly treated badly. Everybody's going to have bad days. Everybody's going to do that stuff. They're going to say things that they regret. You're with someone for 8 hours a day.
No one's perfect.
Shit's going to happen, right? There's happy hour shenanigans. There's romances. There's all kinds of shit that happen inside the office.
I mean,
so, try to have duck feathers for the small stuff. Let it roll off your back, and then. But if it's systematic and people are really disrespecting you because your age, either bring it up to your HR or I would just find a different position because your HR person put you in that position.
Yeah, they should have known.
They should know by that.
They should know.
So,
all right. So, last question here is by Tamir, and Tamir says, from your experience in your own life or someone you've gotten to know in the business world, what are the best ways for a young person to build credibility started out in the business world? While first starting off in the business world. So what is a way that a young person can build credibility? You kind of answered that question with the last one a little bit.
Yeah, that's one way. Another way is to really study the hell out of your company. If you're an employee, right? So I'm assuming all these questions are from the context of somebody going to work for a company, right? And that's a medium to large size company. Small companies, totally different set of rule sets, right? If there's 5 employees, totally different world. But the difference between 5 employees and 15 is pretty huge.
Yes.
Right? So I'm assuming this is 15 employees or 15 to 500 employees, right? That kind of world. Study the hell out of the company. If you really want to have credibility, and then you have credibility in two different worlds too when you're at that kind of company, right? You have credibility amongst your peers, which is important, and then credibility amongst your bosses. A lot of times you can have one or the other, and it's really hard to have both, right? Because you have credibility with management, then you're an ass kisser. You have credibility with your peers, then you're just one of the tribe.
Yeah.
As far as managers go, so it's a delicate line. Know your company, know your products, know your services, and don't chirp them all the time, right? Because then you'll lose your peer.
Cocky one.
You'll lose your peer group. But if the manager ever asks the question, have it on the top of your head. Don't have to go look for it. Know the answer, and don't ever give them your thoughts. Oh, I think it's this. Right? I think this is the answer. Give me the damn answer. Either you know the answer or you don't know the answer. Don't give me thinks. Right? If you're going to talk to your manager and he says, hey guys, who's our top 5 customers revenue-wise? Don't give me things. You have the ability to know the answer. Why don't you know the answer? Right? How much revenue did we make last year? Know the answer. Or don't say anything. I don't know, or this is the number.
Yeah, don't blur it out and say I don't know. Just be quiet.
Shut up and stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Either you know the answer, or you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Your manager doesn't want to know what you think. He wants to know the answer to the question that he asked.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'd say that's a big thing too. Answer the question when it is asked. If a question is not answered, no matter how old you are, you're going to lose credibility with everybody fast.
Anybody that works with me, I think, knows that my largest pet peeve that I've ever been able to define is when I ask a question, a very direct question, not a subjective question, a very direct question, and I get an answer to some other question.
Man, that pisses me off.
I hate it. It drives me insane. And I'll ask the question again.
0 to 100 real quick.
And it's, I think it's a personality trait of people that don't give the answer. I don't know. I've only met a couple people in my life that are like that. My wife's one of them sometimes. So we're learning how to deal with that together. But, and I think that sometimes she doesn't understand the question that I'm asking or whatever. But it is highly frustrating for me because a lot of times I'm asking the question to know, do you know where you're at here so that I can give you the next piece? Because I can't give you the next piece if you don't know the answer to this part.
I need to support you here first before we can go any further.
Right. So that's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to build credibility,
know the company.
Do it by knowing the company and knowing the answers and giving them to when they're asked of. Don't be chirping them off all the time. Right. Don't be an Eddie Haskell about it. If you don't know Eddie Haskell.
I was about to ask, what is that?
Eddie Haskell was a character on the TV show Leave It to Beaver.
Oh.
And he was kind of a shit stirrer outside, but he was a kiss ass to the mom and dads all the time, right? So don't be that guy.
Okay, I do know he is.
Yeah. So if you don't know the answer, say I don't know, or better yet, say, can I have a couple minutes to go get the answer and get back to you? If you don't know the answer, right?
That was gonna be mine.
That's way more respectful than saying, I think it's this, right?
Yeah.
You lose credibility when you think things. You can know things or you cannot know them.
And then that was gonna be mine. Actually, was that if you don't know, just say you don't know, and say, and then ask, will you give me a second to get it, or by when can I get this answer to you?
Right.
I love asking by when.
And over time, you'll understand the nuances of how your supervisor deals with that and manages that stuff, right? It is my belief that most managers, and I do this a lot, if I want a ballpark number, I'll say I need a ballpark number, right? Give me or I'll say an estimate. Can I get an estimated time of completion? I won't say, when will this be done? Hey, give me an estimate for when this will be done.
Right.
Right? And I'm okay with that. And if your estimates are wrong, they're wrong, but they shouldn't be wildly wrong. Right, they should be a day or two.
And if they are wrong, you need to have some kind of explanation to why.
Right, you told me you would have 24 things done by Friday.
What happened?
And now it's Friday, and you're saying, and I say, how many need to be done? And you're like 24. I'm like, what did you do all week?
Yeah.
Right? That happens to be a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, and those things are important. The employee might not see the importance of those, but the manager might have some other, 10 other projects that are waiting on this project to get completed before you can complete those other things, and they can't start until that one's done or I mean, there's a million different scenarios there.
Yeah.
So
With the upper management, then at the same time, the rest of your team. Because I mean, if I'm working with someone, I know this guy's constantly dragging ass. I'm just like, dude, like,
right.
you're making all of us look bad now. You know, like.
Well, and I guess another thing to do there is what has helped me a lot is that you don't bitch about the guy that's not pulling his weight. You help him pull his weight.
Yes. So you got to jump in and be a team player.
And you don't, you just assume that it's being seen. Don't even talk about it. Just do it. Help your team outgrow. And I promise, if you do that, if you have that mentality, you might not. Nobody's looking over your shoulder generally, but it is seen in the big picture.
You cannot bring it up. If you bring it up, it completely discredits every last bit of it.
Right. Absolutely. So, don't. You might want to say to the person, say, "Hey, man, I saved your ass this week. You got happy hour tonight." Right? But don't go telling the boss that, "Hey, Johnny didn't pull his weight this week," and it wouldn't have got done if it wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's bad.
That kind of stuff. But
that's not how you.
They can see. I mean, the boss knows, who's logging in, when they're logging in, when they get there. Who's showing up 3 minutes late, who's showing up 3 minutes early. They know all that stuff. You don't have to tell anybody.
Yeah.
They should know. And if your boss doesn't know those things, then find a different job. I think it's that simple.
It may not be a good fit for you then at that point.
And he probably does know them, he's just not telling you. Right? Because
that's happened to me a lot.
Right.
Don't make assumptions. Do not make assumptions.
Right.
All right. So that's our timer today. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us. If you have any questions or topics that you want us to go over next, make sure you text the line at 314-216-2040.
Get to work.
Make it count.